All right, so as she mentioned, I'm Stefania. I'm a developer advocate with IBM. That means I'm a little bit of a coder, and I'm a lot of somebody that talks too much. So today I'm actually going to be going into IBM's blockchain as a service, but mostly about how it's part of the HyperLedger project with the Linux Foundation. So first, I'm going to get started. Actually, at the end of this session, we will be working with live chain code, so I'm going to distract you with some talk while I start deploying my chain code. And when I said I was going to distract you, I lied. We're just going to deploy it right now. So the advantage of a lot of the demos we have for this is that they're publicly available on GitHub. To speed up the process, I'm just going to use an existing one and my boss's account, because she's graciously letting me use it. All right, so that's going to deploy. And then at the end, we'll come back to it. It'll be like a cooking show where I showed you something and then we went to something else. Everybody doing good already? Great, excited for HyperLedger? You're also quiet, and I don't do quiet well. Okay, so the HyperLedger project. This is really exciting for me because it is part of the Linux Foundation, and I'm a big nerd with Linux. So why HyperLedger? Obviously, you can go to hyperledger.org if you want to check it out some more. HyperLedger is pulling together all of these great companies to tackle the different use cases for blockchain and making a good ledger and a good system for deploying chain code. So we like to think of HyperLedger and what we're doing in the blockchain as an operating system for transactions. And by doing it through the Linux Foundation, you get that transparency, the longevity, support. It's not just IBM doing all this work. It's not just Intel. It's not just JP Morgan. Everybody is deeply invested in the process and in making it better. Another great thing about it is the whole open source-ish aspect of Apache 2.0. And with HyperLedger, we have the certificate authority for identifying users. So I'll show you at the end how the different peers look, as well as that CA in the middle. And then another thing is the reason that HyperLedger kind of was founded was people wanted to be able to control where the peers were located and put them in approved whitelisted networks. So that's another benefit. Now into chain code. Anybody in here know what chain code is? Raise of hands. Just me, and one guy in the back. Here's looking at you, guy. So chain code is code to interact with the network shared ledger. It is literally code. When you think of functions, when you think of all that boring, nasty stuff you learned in engineering school, this is it, but we're going to make it funner because you're going to be able to make your networks better with it. Functions are a way of invoking actions. So when anybody says they're invoking the chain code, they're calling a function. And then right now, we have chain code. I say we, HyperLedger has chain code in Golang, which was a determined contribution by IBM. You can go out right now and build chain code in Go. Or Java, which is what we had recently come out, and you can work with chain code in that. So these are common languages that a lot of people already know how to work with. And then other companies have proposed or committed themselves to releasing chain code in other languages like C++, Haskell. Anybody in here use Haskell? And another one person in the back. That's awesome. And then also Python, which as you can see, I flipped my slide over. Oh, now I get to use the laser pointer. It doesn't work. Okay. And then in addition, you can deploy your test instances, any of your work using Docker and vagrant models. So there's not just this reliance on cloud technology, you can do it in compartmentalized methods. All right, so if you're interested in working with HyperLedger and contributing to that project, we welcome people. Go to the GitHub and start contributing. And now I'm going to talk about what IBM is doing with it. So where does IBM fit in? Well, obviously we want to make money, so that's how we fit into anything. But we are working on blockchain as a service. Anybody in here has ever worked at a bank, a retailer? Anybody? Okay. What do you think that technology runs from? All those transactions, what do they go through? Shout it out. What's that big machine that IBM's had since like 1965. Mainframe, exactly. So right now, blockchain as a service has two models. The free model for developers to start working with, which is running on our soft layer bare metal servers, but the more robust model is running on IBM's Linux One system on System Z. If you can't see my laptop, you can tell I used to work in mainframes. So I'm pretty excited about this because there's nothing more secure right now than a mainframe. Hackers do not take that as an invitation to go buy one and prove me wrong. However, that's kind of where we fit in. While we do for developers, we have the free version, we're really invested in getting things running from a mainframe standpoint so that these banks that are already running on that system can expose their processes to blockchain. Another great thing, we have 4 validating peers. I'm sure we could talk about blockchain for a minute. The base service that you'll get in Bluemix, which you can deploy for free right now and develop for free because we really want to see what people can build, we'll give you 4 validating peers to work with. And then if you want to get more robust, if you're a bigger company, the mainframe version is a paid for, obviously. And of course, the ever popular dashboard method. That's what it looks like when you deploy chain code. Literally, I deploy a service, this is what I get. I can see what's happening with my blocks, I can look at the Swagger APIs, I can look at the logs, I can see anything going on at any given point in time, and I don't have to worry about making curl calls. Who in here likes to make curl calls? Not this kid. Okay, so what are people building with it? I like to emphasize that blockchain is not synonymous with Bitcoin, so what are people building with it? There's different use case models. You can do it for automotives, which is actually what I'm going to show you. It's not just about the financial transactions, it's also about the assets attached to those financial transactions. So for instance, we have UnionPay. IBM just finished a kind of a proof of concept with UnionPay in China as a way for people to be able to exchange loyalty points. So I travel a lot for work, and I have loyalty points with just about every single hotel chain known to man and not man. And I don't even know how many I have at any given time, and it would be great for me to give them to people that could use them instead of me, because I'd never seem to accrue them at the same hotel chain. What UnionPay is allowing them to do is to transfer those funds from bank to bank as long as it's within UnionPay's network. So in the future, they want to be able to do things other than just loyalty points, like flight mileage, things like that. FinDEVr, this is my favorite one. Their CEO is a really awesome woman, so anybody that's big on women in tech here, she's pretty badass. Probably shouldn't have said that. FinDEVr works with diamonds. So if you're familiar at all with the diamond process, there's been this big movement to basically get rid of what we call blood diamonds. And FinDEVr has tackled that by taking those serial numbers that are engraved into diamonds as well as their distinguishing features and registering them in a blockchain so that they can track the movement from the diamonds from origins to end. Now, the reason that this works is because in order to alter the diamonds to remove that serial number, you'd have to recut them, which ruins the value on them or diminishes it. So there's a lot of need, there's a desire to keep those diamonds originally intact, and that means that they can stay valid within a blockchain framework. They're going to be expanding this beyond diamonds to tackle insurance fraud on multiple levels. And then they are ones that are actually using HyperLedger to make this happen. And then this one is actually an Ethereum build. So my IBM cohorts, just hide your eyes. This is chronicled. I'm sure you may have read in the news at some point about a company that wanted to mark shoes and put them in a blockchain, luxury shoes. Anybody in here own a pair of shoes that's over $300? This kid. I don't know why I own them, but they're very pretty. Wouldn't you like to verify? So say you wanted to buy them on eBay. Wouldn't it suck if they came in and they're counterfeit, which is a very big problem in fashion and in the United States? It's in fact illegal in France to bring counterfeit goods into the airport. They will arrest you if they find them. So what Chronicled was talking about doing was 3D printing smart tags into the very fabric of the shoes themselves and then tracking that code via their network. Well, they also do a lot of other things than that. They do proof of ownership with smart tags, and so it's the whole foundation of that 3D printed tag. And they've opened up their SDK for an IoT registry to track Bluetooth-enabled devices, Wi-Fi-enabled devices, things of that nature. So I really love Chronicled because they took it beyond just we need to track the luxury part, we need to track the good and verify its authenticity. All right, just demo already, I'll shut up now. Okay. So as you can see, while I was talking, the code was deploying for me, not floor me. And what I'm in right now is actually the Bluemix dashboard. So anybody, any developer in the room, you can go to Bluemix right now, sign up for a free 30-day trial, and you can start deploying blockchains all over the place if you want to. So what I want to show, this is my blockchain service. Gonna open it up as soon as it loads for me. While that is loading, what I have here on the left is actually one of the blockchain as a service that's already been running. So all I have to do is click on it, deploy, and it gives me this. I have it connected up to a auto transaction system. So you're going to watch on the left, you can see all of my blocks. This is the same dashboard everybody will see. This is not something that I built. This comes packaged with it. As I click on each of the blocks, I can see in a very small text that none of you will probably be able to read, something that says the payload, and it's got details about what happened with that transaction. So in this case, I transferred an asset from a private owner to the manufacturer. And I can see when the date was, the type of action, so invoke, as I mentioned before, that fun verb. I can see the UID and the chain code ID, so I can identify at what point in the chain code it activated, as well as what block it was acting on. What I'm going to do over here is actually initiate a transaction. So this is the application that it's linked to. I have a Toyota. And all of my assets are actually identified by their VIN number. And I'm going to transfer. So I'm a manufacturer that's transferring to a leasing company. This is the same asset I transferred for this original chain code transaction. And you can see on the left, my blocks were just updated with the new block for the transaction. So I'm sitting at 98 blocks now, with 97 being the last transaction on that. What else can you get with the service when you're trying to work with it? And again, this code runs on HyperLedger's Fabric. So it is the public code. There's the same API calls that you're going to make with HyperLedger you can use with this. What we've created is a packaged solution, but if you just want to use HyperLedger and start working with raw chain code, that's another way to go. Another thing I like about it, as I mentioned, the Swagger APIs are built into the dashboard, so if I want to, at any given time, test them out with, again, not having to use a curl installer, I can just type in block 51, which none of you can read because it's really tiny. Try it out, and then I can see the hash for each of these blocks, as well as the different transactions, the payload, things that have happened with it at any given time. And with 2 minutes, I'm probably going to end early and open it up for questions. All right, so in summary, I deployed a chain code in 10 minutes of talking, probably less since I didn't look at it. And with the HyperLedger project, everybody please contribute. Things don't get better unless you add to them. And as you can see here, there's multiple members to this project. And one that some people may have heard about in the news recently is Swift. I think they, more than anybody, have a vested interest in making secure networks and making transactions more fluid. So there's a lot of people contributing to it, and you as an individual can contribute to the code, or you as a company can contribute to the entire project. So that's me, and that's HyperLedger. If you have any questions, please visit us at the booth. I can tell you way more about it, show you way more fancy things to do, and actually show you the code behind it if you like. Thanks.